The Galactic Empire's soldiers disembarked from their sleek transport ship, a marvel of engineering that shimmered under Earth's sun. Each soldier stood over 7 feet tall, with streamlined, bioluminescent armor and a gait that exuded superiority. Their sharp, angular features and glowing eyes made the gathered human Navy SEAL instructors shift uncomfortably. Major Solkar, their leader, scanned the surroundings with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. This is the pinnacle of human military training? Solkar's translator rendered his tone flat, but the disdain wasn't lost on Commander Harris, the Navy SEAL in charge. Harris stepped forward, arms crossed over his muscular frame. Welcome to Coronado. You're about to find out what separates soldiers from warriors. His words carried a quiet confidence that made even Solkar pause. As the group was led through the camp, the alien soldiers observed their surroundings. The environment was far from the sterile precision of their training facilities. Sand covered the ground, salt from the ocean hung thick in the air, and the rhythmic sound of waves crashing formed the backdrop. It's primitive, one alien murmured, earning a sharp glance from Solkar. They call it realism, Harris replied. Overhearing. You can't simulate grit. You earn it. The group stopped in front of a group of trainees carrying massive logs across their shoulders, their faces red with exertion. The aliens watched, bemused, as the humans grunted under the weight. One alien leaned toward Solkar. They waste their energy unnecessarily. Machines could carry those. Harris's sharp voice cut through. The logs aren't the point. It's about pushing past what your mind says is possible. Here, the body follows the will, not the other way around. Solkar's gaze lingered on the humans. Their musculature was unimpressive compared to his species, but the intensity in their eyes told another story. He turned back to Harris. And this, Hell Week of yours? It is truly as grueling as the reports suggest. Harris smirked. You'll find out soon enough. The first day's orientation continued with a lecture in the mess hall, where Harris outlined what the aliens would face. The humans sat shoulder to shoulder, their fatigued but attentive faces contrasting with the alien soldiers' impassive expressions. This isn't about strength or speed, Harris said, pacing the room. We've seen bigger and faster fall apart when sleep deprivation, cold water, and stress take their toll. SEAL training is about resilience. You don't fight alone. You fight as a team. That's where survival comes from. One alien soldier raised a hand. But why such methods? Surely simulations or neural conditioning could achieve similar results without inefficiency. Harris stopped, fixing the soldier with a level stare. Because when you're in the field, things go wrong. Simulations don't teach you to improvise when your tech fails, when your squadmate's down, when the mission looks impossible. Pain sharpens the mind and bonds the team. Solkar's expression hardened. He understood the philosophy but doubted its practicality. His squad had conquered countless simulations under harsher conditions than this. Still, there was an undercurrent here, a sense of something he couldn't quantify. He decided he would uncover it soon enough. As the day ended, the aliens were led to their quarters, basic barracks that stood in stark contrast to the luxurious accommodations they were used to. The smell of salt, sweat, and faint diesel permeated the air. Solkar sat on his bunk, pondering Harris's words. One of his soldiers, Rhynak, leaned against the wall. This will be a waste of time, Commander. They can't teach us anything we don't already know. Solkar didn't respond immediately. Instead, he glanced out the window at the humans jogging past, drenched in sweat but laughing through their exhaustion. Something about their spirit gnawed at him. Perhaps Harris was right. There was something here, something the Galactic Empire had overlooked. The whistle blew sharply at dawn, pulling the alien soldiers from their rest. Solkar and his team assembled in the cold morning air, their bioluminescent armor dimmed for practicality. The humans stood ready, their faces drawn but resolute. The first task was a simple run, simple except it required carrying logs that weighed hundreds of pounds. As they hoisted the logs onto their shoulders, the aliens quickly realized that the training was anything but simple. The uneven terrain and gravity of Earth worked against them. Their enhanced musculature, designed for their home planet's lower gravity, strained under the unexpected load. Rhynak stumbled, causing the log to dip dangerously close to the ground. "Keep it up, alien," barked Chief Petty Officer Blake, pacing alongside them. "You drop that log, your whole team pays for it." Rhynak gritted his teeth and adjusted his stance. Solkar, his jaw tight, stepped closer to take some of the weight. They continued, their movements jerky and uncoordinated compared to the humans, who moved as a single unit. By the time they reached the end of the course, the aliens were gasping for air, their shimmering skin dulled with sweat. "This is inefficient," one soldier muttered, collapsing onto the sand. "Carrying logs doesn't prepare us for battle." "It's not about the logs," Harris snapped, walking into view. "It's about breaking you down to rebuild you. Out there, when everything's falling apart, you don't survive on tech. You survive because you've been here before, and you know you can push through." The aliens exchanged glances, frustration evident. To them, this training seemed archaic, an exercise in unnecessary suffering. Solkar stood, brushing the sand off his armor. "We will complete the course," he said firmly, silencing his team's complaints. Later, during the water drills, the challenges escalated. The aliens were instructed to dive into the freezing surf and swim in tandem with human trainees. Their advanced respiratory systems initially gave them an edge, but the cold water sapped their strength faster than they anticipated. When one of the alien soldiers lagged behind, a human trainee extended a hand to pull him forward. "Stick together," the human said through chattering teeth. "No one gets left behind." The alien hesitated, unused to such gestures of camaraderie, but eventually accepted the help. They reached the shore as a group, though exhaustion was evident on every face. Harris watched from the beach, arms crossed. "That's what I like to see. Teamwork. You're starting to get it." That evening, the alien soldiers sat in the mess hall, their pride bruised. The humans around them laughed and exchanged war stories, their energy seemingly endless despite the day's grueling events. Solkar leaned back, observing. "They endure because they do not rely on what we consider essential," he mused. "They rely on each other." Rhynak frowned. "But why go through this? Surely there are more efficient ways to prepare for war." Solkar shook his head slowly. "Perhaps efficiency isn't the point. Survival is." From across the room, Harris met Solkar's gaze, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. The aliens were beginning to understand, even if they didn't realize it yet. The training shifted focus as the days progressed, introducing increasingly complex tactical exercises. For the Galactic soldiers, this was supposed to be where they excelled. Their neural interfaces and advanced physiology gave them an innate advantage in strategy and precision. Yet, when the first tactical scenario began, a simulated hostage rescue, they found themselves faltering. The aliens entered the mock battlefield with swift efficiency, their movements precise and their targeting flawless. But as soon as the simulation took an unexpected turn, an improvised ambush created by the instructors, they hesitated. The human trainees, who had been trailing behind, reacted instinctively. They split into smaller teams, using debris and natural cover to adapt to the chaotic situation. By the time the scenario ended, the humans had successfully completed the objective while the aliens stood frozen, their flawless coordination unraveling under the unpredictability. "That's the problem with relying on perfection," Harris said later during the debrief. "You don't know what to do when things get messy." Solkar stood stiffly, his pride stung. "Our systems are designed for precision. This chaos is inefficient." "And yet it worked," Harris replied evenly. "Out there, you won't always have a clean battlefield. You need to trust your instincts and your team. Perfection doesn't survive in war. Adaptation does." The alien soldiers returned to the barracks in silence. Solkar could see the frustration in his team's expressions. They were used to being the best, to mastering every challenge with ease. But here, among these humans, they were learning hard lessons about their own limitations. The next day, during another exercise, something shifted. The scenario involved a simulated extraction under heavy fire. Solkar's team moved in as usual, their precision and efficiency apparent. But this time, when unexpected variables arose, A wounded human trainee, debris blocking their planned route. They paused. Solkar hesitated, glancing at the human trainees, who were already improvising a solution. Adapt, he muttered, repeating Harris's words. Trust the team. He signaled his squad to adjust their plan. Instead of sticking to their pre-designed approach, they worked with the humans, combining their advanced technology with the humans' instinctive problem-solving. Together, they completed the mission with minimal losses. For the first time, Solkar felt a sense of accomplishment not tied to precision but to perseverance. That night, the aliens joined the humans in the mess hall. One of the younger human trainees approached Rhynak with a grin. Not bad out there today. You might make a soldier yet. Rhynak, caught off guard, managed a nod. Your methods are unusual but effective. The human laughed. You mean messy, right? Yeah, that's kind of our thing. Solkar watched the exchange, his mind racing. He was beginning to understand what made these humans so formidable. It wasn't their technology or their physical prowess. It was their resilience, their ability to adapt and thrive in chaos. As the lights dimmed in the barracks that night, Solkar addressed his team. We've spent our lives striving for perfection. But perhaps the key to survival isn't perfection. It's the ability to endure, to change, and to trust. His soldiers listened, their usual confidence tempered by the humility of hard-earned lessons. For the first time since their arrival, Solkar felt they were truly learning. The final test was unlike anything the alien soldiers had faced before. It combined every skill they had learned over weeks of training, pushing them to their physical and mental limits. The mission was simple in theory. Infiltrate an enemy stronghold, secure a valuable asset, and extract without detection. In practice, it was chaos. The simulation began in the dead of night. The aliens and human trainees moved together as a single unit, their roles carefully assigned. Solkar's team, with their advanced sensors, took point, navigating the dense terrain. The humans followed close behind, using their intimate knowledge of Earth's environment to suggest quieter routes and avoid natural hazards. Halfway through the mission, the instructors threw a curveball, an ambush. Explosions erupted around the trainees, and blaring alarms shattered the quiet. Solkar instinctively turned to his team for orders, but something stopped him. He saw the human trainees already springing into action, splitting into pairs to neutralize the simulated threat. Adapt, he reminded himself. Instead of relying solely on his team's advanced systems, Solkar made a choice. He ordered his soldiers to work directly with the humans, combining their strengths. The aliens provided superior reconnaissance and precise strikes, while the humans used their ingenuity to create distractions and clear paths. At one point, a human trainee was injured, his leg immobilized by a simulated explosion. Without hesitation, an alien soldier lifted the human over his shoulder, carrying him to safety while the rest of the team covered their retreat. The line between human and alien blurred as they worked seamlessly to complete the objective. When the mission ended, the team regrouped, breathless but triumphant. Harris stepped forward, his expression unreadable. You pulled it off, he said finally. Not because you're the strongest or the smartest, but because you work together. That's what makes a real soldier. For the first time, Solkar felt a sense of pride not just in his team but in their growth. They had entered this training as superior beings, certain of their dominance. Now, they understood that strength alone wasn't enough. The graduation ceremony was a modest affair, held under the open sky with the waves crashing in the background. The alien soldiers stood alongside the humans, their once pristine armor now scuffed and battered from weeks of training. Each alien was presented with a Navy SEAL trident, a symbol of their accomplishment. As Harris handed Solkar his trident, he spoke quietly. You came here thinking you had nothing to learn from us. Glad to see you were wrong. Solkar met his gaze, his usual arrogance replaced with humility. We have learned more than we anticipated. Not just about war, but about ourselves. The alien soldiers boarded their ship later that day, but not before exchanging farewells with the human trainees. Bonds had been formed in the fires of hardship, and mutual respect now bridged the gap between their species. As the ship ascended, Solkar looked down at the earth below, a newfound appreciation stirring within him. The humans were far from perfect, but in their imperfections lay their greatest strength, the ability to endure, to adapt, and to thrive against all odds.